Do you have recording permissions now? Everyone? Just checking in.
Bea ako wala pa.
Sandali lang.
Thank you. No worries.
Bea, I think I can switch out of this into my computer. It's finally working. I'm switching.
All right, sige, we can wait for you so that mas maayos din yung video.
It's okay. Go ahead. I'm in.
All right, everyone. We'll start in a bit, literally a few seconds from now. Thank you for joining us. We are joined by Maria Ressa, of course, the CEO of Rappler, and Attorney Francis Lim, our Chief Counsel. We'll start with a statement from Attorney Lim.
Hello. Hello. Hello, hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay, can I start? No, you got.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, we confirm that we received a copy of the SEC decision dated June 28, reaffirming its earlier decision to revoke the franchise of Rappler. We due respect to our friends in the SEC, we strongly disagree with the decision. And fortunately for us, we have legal remedies available to question the decision before our courts of law. So rest assured that we will do so on behalf of the Rappler Group. And we are confident that at the end of the day, we shall prevail. Thank you very much. So we're ready for questions from press, no? Unless Maria wants to make a statement of her own.
No, I think go ahead, Francis. And what I'll do is after, because you have to leave earlier, after that, guys, I can take questions and I can tell you what we did in Honolulu. Go ahead, Francis. Go ahead, guys.
Attorney Francis, can I ask a question?
Karen, how are you?
Hi, Maria. Hi, Attorney. Thank you for holding this call. Sir, when you said legal remedies, what exactly is available to you? The SEC said that the CA decision is final. And so does that mean can you go straight to the Supreme Court, or is the decision still appealable to another venue?
Okay, the present decision that we're now discussing is a decision that can be appealed directly to the Court of Appeals via what we call in the legal circle a petition for review. And we have 15 days, I think, from yesterday to file a petition for review, or what we, the layman know, appeal to the Court of Appeals. From the Court of Appeals, we will have a chance to file a motion for reconsideration with the Court of Appeals in case the Court of Appeals disagreed with us. And eventually, we will have the final opportunity to appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court. So it's not the end of the world for us. There's still a very long process to go. And as I said a while ago, or at least intimated, we strongly believe in our case. No? there are cogent and powerful factual and legal grounds to reverse the decision of the SEC, which we are now discussing. And at the end of the day, we are positive that we can have the revocation of Rappler reversed by the highest court of the land.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. When you said you have legal arguments to counter the SEC's findings, because the SEC seems unconvinced about the action of Rappler and Omidyar when Omidyar donated the PDRs to Rappler staff. So SEC said it did not cure what it says the violation.
Yeah, that's an area of contention. We've cited a long line of cases where the Supreme Court said that transfer of the ownership not to qualified Filipinos would cure whatever defect it is in the hands of the non-Filipinos. Although in this case, we do not admit that the ownership of the PDRs by the foreigners equates to ownership or equity interest in Rappler Inc. and Rappler Inc. or Rappler Holdings. I've come from the stock exchange, and there is a very big difference between depository receipts and shares of stock. Okay, so that's one area of contention, and we do hope that due to the significance of this case and its implications, especially on press freedom, the Supreme Court will finally resolve that very important issue.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Mr. Lim. This is Swee Lee from the New York Times.
I
I wanted to ask, notwithstanding these legal appeals, if you ignore this order, and Rappler has indicated that this is business as usual, what are the legal consequences for the journalists and for Ms. Ressa? Thank you.
Well, we believe in the rule of law, and we will never advise Rappler to ignore the order. No, what we will do is to comply, to do business as usual in full compliance with the SEC directives that were suggested before, and we will take it from there. In no way will we defy or disobey the orders. As I said a while ago, there is recourse to the courts of law, which of course are different from the SEC, which is an administrative agency.
I
So
see.
until our courts of law say that we have to close down by ultimately upholding the SEC decision, it's business as usual for us.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, Attorney Francis, just a follow-up on the previous questions. Is there any legal instrument that will allow, for example, the SEC to enforce this decision when the case is on appeal, which will effectively shut down the operations of Rappler, or not?
That's a possibility, but based on our study, the SEC cannot enforce the decision pending appeal. In fact, no less than the former chairman of the SEC said early on that the SEC will not close down until there's a final decision. And I think there are many options. So it's the options are not limited to appeal, but we will discuss the other options with the client in due time.
And if, for example, this is a bit hypothetical and speculative already, but if the SEC
I'm sorry,
decides
you're breaking up. I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
If, for example, the SEC decides to enforce the order while you're on appeal, would you characterize this as highly irregular based on similar issues that you've encountered in the past where registration document has been revoked and they appealed the decision before the appellate court?
Well, if the SEC does that, pending our appeal, one clear legal remedy is to seek temporary restraining order or a preliminary injunction with the Court of Appeals.
And one final question from me, Ed. When do you You have 15 days to file from
15
yesterday.
days from receipt of the decision, I think, but that 15-day period is subject to extension, of course, with the approval of the Court of Appeals.
Do you have
But
any
rest
indications?
assured that we've started studying the decision that we received yesterday, and we'll appeal in due time, and you'll be the first one to know.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Francis.
Can I ask, or meron pang iba? Hi, Attorney
Go
Lim.
ahead, Lian.
Lian po. We just wanted to be clarified kasi dun sa order, it says that the SC issued a resolution declaring the case closed and terminated. Could the SC do that without Rappler going to the SC? Paano po nangyari yun? And SEC is insisting that it has attained finality and it's in fact in the entry of judgment. So will it trigger another round of appeals via PETREV?
I think that's the SEC was referring to the Court of Appeals decision. But if you note that decision of the Court of Appeals said remanded the case to the SEC to tell the Court of Appeals the effect of the donation, and for the SEC to go back to the Court of Appeals and report its findings. So what does that mean in layman's terms? No, that as far as the Court of Appeals is concerned, or at least from the proper legal perspective, the Court of Appeals decision has not attained finality. In fact, we filed a manifestation with the Supreme Court that the Court of Appeals decision cannot attain finality until the Court of Appeals rules on the effect of the donation based on the report of the SEC. And as of now, all that has happened is a report by the SEC to the Court of Appeals, no, as to whether or not, in the legal world, no, we have this prohibition against multiplicity of suits. No, you cannot, and that's the reason why we, in a special manifestation with the Supreme Court, we said that let's wait for the decision of the Court of Appeals after it receives that evaluation by the SEC before considering the Court of Appeals decision final and executory. That's an area of contention that may be raised in the Supreme Court. Sorry. No.
Attorney Lim, when did Rappler file the manifestation to the Supreme Court?
I think I don't know the exact date, but when we were supposed to go to the Supreme Court, then after evaluation, we said, no, as lawyers, we have to obey the Supreme Court prescriptions against multiplicity of suits, and this is the best way to do. Let's just wait, no, for the Court of Appeals decision that would be based on the report of the SEC. Now, there is a question whether this SEC decision was properly done, and in our view, it was irregular, highly irregular, because we were not given due process during the evaluation stage. No? What is at issue here is the very corporate existence of a company, not only an ordinary company, but a company that caters to the public good. And due process, which is a constitutional right, should have required that we be accorded our day in court before the SEC that decided this particular case. So that's another powerful argument in our arsenal to question this decision of the SEC. Substantive under our scheme of law, particularly the Constitution, due process is so important, especially when what is at stake is the life of a person, and that includes juridical entities like Rappler.
Sir, kahit rough lang, was it 2020 and 2020 or 2021 or 2022 yung manifestation? After the report of the SEC?
Before the report of the SEC. Before the report. Long before the report. Anticipated this happening.
All right.
That's why we already preempted things by making that manifestation with the Supreme Court. That's my records.
Thank you, sir.
So what's happening today is what happened June 28 was anticipated by us, because when we do handle in cases in ACTA law, we prepare for a worst case scenario. So we told our client yesterday, don't panic, just leave things to us, and fortunately they're listening to us as they have been doing before.
Hello, we have a question from Krishna.
Sorry, go Fred.
Oh, sorry. Maria?
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, you're muted.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I thought Maria had internet problems. You have a question from Krisha, who also has internet problems. This is for Maria. How is the mood inside Rappler now? And what have you told your reporters and staff? I think Maria has internet issues. We can return. We
What-
can,
One of the
we can go back.
things I will do is put it in the context of and throw your legions.
I think Maria has some internet issues, so we'll just go back to Maria later. I think Howard and Camille have questions. Let's go with Howard.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully my internet's working okay, so you can hear me. This is a question actually to Francis Slim. Given that the Omidar network obviously donated the money in the investment in 2018, does it now make that whole case moot, given that essentially there is no question of foreign ownership?
That's precisely our point. If there was any defect at all in the PDRs, the defect, constitutional though it may be, have been cured by the donation of the instruments, PDR, to qualified Filipinos, Okay, although the SEC disagrees with us based on this latest decision that we got yesterday, but that's an area which the Supreme Court should rule on.
And do you mind answering like a sort of broader question that really what we're seeing here is the Constitution appears to be cherry-picked. There are some things like in the Bill of Rights that seem to be overlooked, like due process of the law when it comes to people's rights to justice. And yet in this case, what you're saying here is it's a moot point because the money was donated, but the Constitution is being used to try to silence Rappler. So what's the broader issue here with justice in the Philippines at the moment? What's the state of justice in the Philippines right now, in your opinion?
Well, we remain hopeful that justice will be done at the end of the day. Of course, there are bumps along the way, but that's part of life. No? And we remain strongly in the belief that at the end of the day, justice will be done. That's in broad strokes, that's what we in the legal team are really hoping for and praying for. And I hope that with the change in administration, things will be better, or at the very least, less worse for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, since Maria's back
Howard.
with Maria's internet is okay again, let's just repeat Krisha's question from earlier. She's not able to connect via video. This is for Maria. How is the mood inside Rappler, and what have you told your reporters and staff?
I mean, we've gone through this before. I think you've seen the way we've reacted to it. We have plans A through Z. It's like quicksand right now, right? If you can't actually count on rule of law, we count on Francis, who, reminder, used to be president of the Philippine Stock Exchange. And that's kind of one reality. And then the other part is, I mean, our goal is to continue holding the line. You've heard me say that forever. We're not going to voluntarily give up our rights. And we really shouldn't. I've continued to appeal for that, because when you give up your rights, you're never going to get them back. The mood, I think stunned, because we got here, but I was stunned the first time I was arrested. And then in less than 2 years, starting in 2019, I had 10 arrest warrants, right? So these new normals should not be normal. We should demand better, and that's what we continue to do.
We have a question from Camille Alemia.
Hi, Maria. I just want to ask, how will this new ruling affect the reporters' conduct of work and accreditation given the history that happened to Rappler journalists? And just a follow-up to that, do you think things will be better under a new administration given what happened during the campaign?
Grabe, Camille. All right, so I will throw this back to Francis. We will stand on rule of law, and since we are fighting for this in courts of law, we will continue to demand accreditation, right? If, as what's happened, I mean, put this in the context of, last week, you have other websites that were blocked, right? There are actions that are being done with impunity, and we must continue to challenge them in court, but we must continue to act in the real world, which is what we'll do simultaneously. We'll continue to do our jobs. Our reporters, you know this, right? We continue to hold the line. We'll continue to report, and we'll continue to demand that access is there. I appeal to journalists in the Philippines, all around the world, that we hold our rights together, because if we give it up just a little bit, we begin to lose. That's what I start calling death by 1,000 cuts. Did I answer your question? What was the second part of the question, Camille?
Do you think things will be better under the new administration given what happened during the campaign?
Ang galing ng timing, di ba? It's like a little bit of a handoff. Look, I don't know, but like Francis said, I hope for the best. We can only hope for the best. And given the track record of the campaign, given the track record of 36 years, I think the burden of proof is actually on the incoming administration. I continue to appeal to work to the incoming administration, work with journalists. We're here to help you give a better future for the Philippines. We're not your enemies.
Thank you.
Right,
Hello,
Carl, go
Camille.
ahead.
Camille? Hello. There was a question earlier on when we filed that manifestation with the Supreme Court, on the Court of Appeals decision not becoming final and executory, contrary to what the SEC has said in this decision. And I now have the record. We filed it in April 2019, just after we received the Court of Appeals decision upholding the earlier decision of the SEC revoking the franchise. So we're covered on that, on the issue of whether or not the Court of Appeals decision has become final and executory. So
Attorney
it was
Lim,
filed, yes.
It was filed April 2019.
Yes.
I'm just curious because according to the order, there was an issuance dated September 25, 2019 of a resolution by the Supreme Court declaring it closed and terminated. So what's the implication of that? Is our
No,
manifestation?
I don't think the Supreme Court was referring to the Court of Appeals decision. So I don't know if I earlier stated we initially filed a motion for extension to file petition for review with the Supreme Court, but after deliberation by the team, we decided that it would be better if we don't pursue the appeal to the Supreme Court from the Court of Appeals at that time and just wait for the new decision of the Court of Appeals based on the report of the SEC, so that we will bring up all matters in the Supreme Court in one go to avoid multiplicity of suits.
Right. So just for the benefit of others, because the wording of the order makes it seems like it's final na.
Yes,
so
yes,
once
yes.
again, you're saying it's not.
Yeah, it's not. That's at least our view, and we have made the appropriate manifestation with the Supreme Court.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Lim.
Maricar, go ahead.
Yes, good morning. For Maria, you mentioned about the timing the order came out, and Rappler did a very good job covering Marcos during the campaign. Actually, very well, critical of and also about the disinformation and all this misinformation going on. Do you think Marcos has any influence with regard to the order that came out 2 days before he takes his oath? And Attorney Lim, just to follow up, Attorney Lim mentioned that he's hoping for things to be less worse under the new administration. Do you share the same? Are you looking forward to share the same opinion? Thank you.
You want me to answer first, Francis, or you want to go ahead?
No, answer first. I think the question is directed more to you, Maria.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Like, I'll just say three things, right? Like, and I'll paraphrase some of what Francis has said. We have long stood by the constitutionality of this agreement. It's a Philippine depository receipts. Others have had it. I think that you've heard me state repeatedly over the last 6 years that we have been harassed. This is intimidation. These are political tactics. We refuse to succumb to them. I think the other thing that's interesting is that this is also the first time that the SEC has actually intervened in something that that connects to press freedom issues. And again, as Francis has pointed out, we are bringing it to the courts of law. I'm going to share at the bottom our original statement from January 2018, which was when this happened and we were going to fight it. All right. I didn't answer your question. Does Marcos have any influence? Yeah, of course, but it's really speculative on my part. You know, like any journalist, any journalist today, what we do is we tell the people we cover, we have standards and ethics. They can hold us to account the same way that we try to hold them account. But in an age where you can actually form your own mini network, right? Or you can choose who you speak with. This is part of the reason we've divided realities. We don't have a shared reality on facts. I appeal to the Marcos administration. You know, it is a tough world out there today. The Philippines actually has a fantastic opportunity right now in terms of geopolitical power play. It isn't all bleak, even though it is a tough time. And I think that, you know, I think that rule of law becomes critical here. The Marcos administration has the ability to show that it will strengthen rule of law. And that's the appeal I have. In terms of why this is happening now, I mean, again, I'm not a mind reader, you know, but I can say we're ready. And we will continue to do our jobs. I keep saying we hold the line, we hold the line, we hold the line. We will not voluntarily give up our rights. We will do our jobs.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who wants to turn on their cameras or mics? Or because I can just read out some of the questions here. Okay, this one is from Francia. Apologies if I mispronounce your name. Given the current condition of press freedom in the Philippines, what can journalists do more to hold the line, especially under the incoming Marcos Jr. administration? I think this is for Maria.
I think we have to realize that, and I think most of us have already, that the difference with social media and at the East-West Center today, you know, the reason why we decided to be transparent about it is because that's what's worked for us, you know, shine the light. I mean, the Washington Post thing is, you know, democracy dies in darkness. So we might as well shine the light. And that's what we continue to try to do. In terms of, gosh, I'm so sorry. I was so focused on that. What was the actual question?
She's asking what journalists can do more to hold the
Can do
line
together.
under the
Okay.
incoming administration.
All right. So the first is, I think we have to understand it's kind of the three pillars I've always talked about in the last 6 years: technology, journalism, community, right? We need to understand and tell Filipinos that the technology that we're using to deliver the news is actually biased against facts. It is biased against journalists and journalism, that lies laced with anger and hate spread faster and further than facts, that what spreads the most is anger, hate, conspiracy theories. We know there are some neighborhoods in the Philippines who believe that they will get gold because they voted, right? These are things that, so this is that kind of insidious manipulation. I think that's the first step. The second is, what really is that? I think the battle is for facts, and it is an existential battle for facts. So one of the things that we can do is work together to strengthen the facts, to demand accountability. And it isn't an aggressive position, you know, for the incoming president-elect. He takes his oath of office. President Marcos, where he goes, we all go. So who wants to see this? I mean, there are accountability issues that I hope he deals with. But in the end, yeah, it's a tough world right now, and we're going to have to collaborate to make it better. That doesn't mean not do our jobs. It does mean hold power to account in a way that is, what's the word? Unity, that unites rather than divides.
Before Attorney Lim has to leave the call, we have a question from Regine Cabato. She's unable to turn on her audio also. But for record and context, how many more cases are there against Rappler and Maria, and a status update on the cases?
Well, the latest status, of course, is this one, no? Which is the one that our team of lawyers in Accra Law is attending to. No? There are a lot of cases. I lost track of the number because there are cases other than what in Accra are handling. No? But there are tax cases, there are criminal cases, there is this revocation case. No? But rest assured that we're handling them to the best that we can, because we do believe in the cause of our client. No? And I think we're handling this case not only in the ordinary course, but in the what I may call extraordinary, considering the importance and significance of the issues involved. At stake here is a very, very important aspect of our democracy, no? And that's how we're taking this. It's not pure money, it's democracy that we are trying to safeguard. And I think each and every Filipino, from the lowest of member of society to the highest, that should always bear that in mind.
Let me just quickly say the number of cases. I personally have 7, and that's 5 tax evasion, the anti-dummy case, and then the cyber libel, which we're appealing. I think that might mean Rappler has 8, because the SEC case is a civil case, and I'm not named in that, but we can give you, we certainly try to keep count of all of this. We've called it death by 1,000 cuts of press freedom, death by 1,000 cuts of democracy. How do we push back? We tell our communities we get stronger together.
Just to add, no, I think, and Maria is right, no, that media should work, no, to support the incoming administration, because we are all into this. No? The failure of the new president is the failure of our country. And one thing, sure thing to make this country work is the respect for the rule of law. You may have the best programs, but if you don't have the rule of law, then we can just wish for the best and not achieve anything.
One more question from me for Attorney Francis. Sorry, sir, bago ko umalis. Based on your knowledge on how the SEC operates, well, you said naman kanina probably they will not enforce while we go to court. But meron bang scenario that they physically go to the office and implement the order, like padlocks and all? And how would Rappler respond by not defying the order?
Let me just say this. We have tried to the best of our ability to anticipate all situations, including the worst case situations. Okay. Our hope is that people, and I know the SEC, I have a lot of friends there, they're reasonable persons, no? And we can disagree on particular issues, but at the end of the day, I think the SEC works also for the good of the country. I've been supporting them. They have been supporting my advocacies as a private citizen, no? And I think they're well-meaning. I just hope that it stays that way, even with this case. No? There are good people there. Okay, the commissioners, no, I know them, many of them personally. I think some of them were my students, no, and I'm very hopeful. I'm very confident that they will act reasonably.
Thanks, sir.
I think Allison has a question.
Oh, hi. I have a question for Maria. Sorry, apologies. I understand you have more or less said this already, Maria, but I just wanted to get something explicitly clear. Will Rappler continue to operate despite this shutdown order?
Yes, absolutely. We continue to work. It is business as usual. We will follow the legal, there is a process, and we'll follow the legal process. We'll continue to stand up for our rights.
Thanks a lot.
Do we have, we have a question from Howard.
Hi, yeah, it's just one more question for Attorney Francis Lim. We see the Solicitor General mentioned a few times in the statement. How normal is that, given this is a case brought by the SEC? Why is the Solicitor General intervening so much when you read through that statement?
Well, I think that's part of our system, Howard. The Office of the Solicitor General is the counsel of administrative agencies like the SEC, and I think they're doing that's just doing their mandate. Of course, sometimes we feel that the incumbent Solicitor General goes overboard, but that's part of the process. Hopefully, with the change of administration, there will be a new Solicitor General. Things will change.
And just quickly, one for Maria as well. I mean, worst case scenario, are there ways of taking Rappler effectively underground or abroad, or without actually having a footprint in the Philippines? I mean, obviously, it's probably something you don't really want to discuss, but have you thought about that? Given that vloggers can do whatever they like in the Philippines, is there a way of disbanding and going like digitally underground?
Is that you, Howard? Are you the one
Yes.
asking this question?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let me put it this way, right? So remember how long ago this began for us? It began years ago, and on the Francis is more diplomatic than I am. What I will say is that the law has been weaponized against journalists, against news organizations, and you know that we're not the only ones that just felt it. Of course, how is it possible that the franchise of ABS-CBN was taken away in May of 2020, right? So the law is weaponized. That's a given. We still have a senator who spent her entire term mostly in jail. And so given that, if that's a given, then one of the things we had to do, and I say this all the time, embrace your fear, right? So we kind of thought through what are the worst things that could happen, what things will make us afraid, what things will, and then we began to workflow this. We began to think it, we began to touch it, and we began to, as some of you know, drill it. And that's okay. So the response, I guess, is, and of course, I can't, we're on quicksand. I think having Francis makes it feel like solid ground, and being optimistic is way better than being pessimistic, and hoping that the authorities, especially the incoming administration, will come in and strengthen rule of law. But we have plans A through Z. We will keep working.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good luck. It's my last week here in the Philippines, so best of luck to you, everyone at Rappler. So
good luck wherever you go next, Howard.
Thank you.
It's all bad.
Do we have questions for Attorney Lim?
Yeah, sorry, because I have to go.
Okay. I think we have no more questions for Attorney Lim. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. I think Maria has agreed to remain. No? Sorry, Maria.
Yes.
And the team. No,
thank you, Francis. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
For your time, Attorney. Okay, we'll have a few more minutes with Maria because you also have to pull her out because she has other meetings to attend to today. Anyone who wants to ask questions, muna on mic before we ask one of the questions that was sent in via chat earlier.
Hi, Bea, can I ask a question? If that's
Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, Maria. I'm just curious. I know that you and Rappler, and I think everybody in this group know that you've been the target of intense social media hatred campaigns from the supporters of Duterte. How has it been like with regard to the supporters of the incoming administration? I've seen some of the, of course, the tweets, and they're really hideous. I mean, nothing can describe the intense trolling. It's very rabid, virulent, and I'm sorry that you had to go through this. But How has it been like for you and your team?
I mean, Karen, you were one of the first ones also, right? Like we felt the tide change when information operations, that's concerted attacks. But then in the case of, say, Russia, and in some of the cases in the Philippines, I would almost call it information warfare, has been leveled against individual journalists, against news organizations, and that these things are meant to take you out. Right? Like if you go by the UNESCO report, when they looked at the big data case study of the attacks against me, they looked at almost 500,000 social media attacks. 60% of the attacks were meant to tear down my credibility. I've just been around for 36 years. So I almost felt like, those leading up to the time when President Duterte took office, I had gone to the gym. Had exercised. I knew why I was doing it. We knew why we set up Rappler. I mean, Rappler has a shareholders agreement where the journalists have economic control. We are the decision makers. 40% that I mentioned, and I know that women journalists here would have felt it, but even the men have gotten trolled. 40% was meant to tear down my spirit. What does it do? When you see the data and you realize what it's supposed to do, whatever it is you fear or whatever insecurity it was that you had, you learn to become stronger. It's probably not the greatest mental health thing, but that Nietzsche quote, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's happened. And then in terms of our people, this also. I mean, Pia Renada was 26 years old or so when she became an intense focus of attack. At that point, I was already in my 50s, so it's a little bit easier for me. But it's the younger journalists who are coming of age in this. This is not normal. This is impunity. We need to demand, and this is something we started saying in 2016, we need to demand an end to impunity of the drug war. That was one of the first things of Rodrigo Duterte. And we need to demand an end to impunity of Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. These two things are enabled all around the world. There's, in 2020, Oxford Computational Propaganda Research Project said that in at least 80 countries around the world, cheap armies on social media were rolling back democracy. How did they do that? By attacking journalists, by attacking news organizations, by tearing down trust. So we can't give up.
Thank you, Maria. Go ahead.
Yeah, was it the same? Is it the intensity is more or less the same? Government, I've seen the supporters also attack Rappler and you yourself. Do you see any difference at all? Did it even wane after the victory? Or it was just
Iba siya. It's like waves of the ocean, and I would say there have been like maybe 10 different waves of, they went from the first wave where they were so organized that they did it by demographics. Those are the three big kind of influencers. Please don't call journalists influencers. Journalists require courage. We don't do mob rule. Anyway, so it kind of wanes. One of the things that we did see most recently, and this was after the Nobel, after I came back from Oslo in December, around the 29th of December, I saw a spike of attacks on Twitter. And so what we did is we went to look at the data on Twitter, and we realized that spike of attacks, and it was pretty high. I can send you the slides or the story, was that when were these accounts created? And they're not going to do this again because it's so easy to find it. And I'm telling you how we found them, right? So these were newly created accounts that almost instantly attacked me. And then what we did is these are pro-Marcos accounts. And then we looked at the anti-Marcos accounts and kind of looked at when they were created. And you can see that the anti-Marcos accounts were created at all different times, but the spike of the pro-Marcos accounts on the day that they were attacking me was kind of interesting. So we did a story that was in January, and within a few days, Twitter took down more than 300 pro-Marcos accounts. This is the hard part. We are getting gaslit. We, as in journalists, if you point that out, then they will, whatever they're doing, they say you're doing. So they'll say, they lie. They're lying, right? And then That's the gaslighting part. And then you kind of supposedly have to defend yourself. We're not political players, but yet some Filipinos believe that we're political. These phrases of Bilawan, I try not to use any of these, or the kakampinks, or the all these colors. I mean, look at DDS itself. Do you know how quickly they were able to turn Davao Death Squad to diehard Duterte supporters? It was less than 6 months. So that's the part that I think we can do better with, how our behavior is changed by social media, how social media's algorithms, an algorithm is just opinion and code, how these algorithms wear us down and literally change our behavior in the real world. They can't completely justify the vote, right? But the vote that we went through on May 9th is a combination in many ways of a failure of the trickle down factor, right? Our people didn't feel the trickle down economically. It was a tough time with COVID, and it was easier to sell a dream. And of course, Marcos just never really went away. The support has always been there. It isn't as if all the supporters went away overnight. I'm in Hawaii, right? Where there's probably a larger group. Anyway, I better not. So I'm just saying that our world has changed, and I think we need to call a spade a spade. We need to call it. If you're being gaslit, we need to say it. We journalists aren't so good at that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? None? Siguro last na lang, Maria, from, we have one from Zandro here. At first now, it seemed that it perhaps referring to the case was filed to intimidate, or the decision was filed to intimidate Rappler for being critical. But did you think that they really wanted to shut down Rappler from the very beginning?
Look at how much we have lost. At the very beginning, I would never have thought this was possible. But let me remind again the context, right? Bulatlat, Alter Media, these sites and other sites that have already been blocked, they've been around for decades. And so again, these are new pushes. These are new, it's like having a bulldozer pushing through. And we need to kind of hold the line against that bulldozer. It isn't always easy because it creates new normals, right? The same way that like in 2016, would I have thought that Filipinos could have been so ugly online, that we could hate so much, that there's so much anger? That's not normal in the Philippines, right? It wasn't that. And I'll tell you how I know also, because we had a mood meter. And before 2016, the top vote, the emotion that got the most votes in the Philippines was happy. So there's something that was artificially created. This is part of the reason I hold social media, these technology platforms, to account. They're literally changing our humanity. They are changing our culture. They are changing our actions in the real world. And if a strong democracy, a democracy with strong institutions like the United States, can actually have violence on Capitol Hill the way they did, and that violence was exactly the same way we're all being attacked, which is, the seeding of Stop the Steal or election fraud was seeded in August 2019, and then it was bottom up exponentially. You say a lie a million times, it becomes a fact. People began to believe it. Then it went with Steve Bannon, one of the guys behind Cambridge Analytica, and he was on YouTube. It spread, and then after that, Tucker Carlson from Fox picked it up, and then after that, it was QAnon that dropped it before coming top down from President Trump himself. So that's your bibingka. Kami, anong nangyari sa amin? We had journalist equals criminal was the meta-narrative that was seeded. And then after that, seeded in 2016 when we were being attacked, after a year, at the State of the Nation address, we were the first news group attacked, I believe, was the Inquirer. ABS was always thrown in, but in 2017, that State of the Nation address, it came top down with President Duterte, who attacked all three of us again. And then we got the first subpoena about a week after that. So it is what it is. The facts are there. And it's almost like for us as working journalists, we have to it's like treat it like pollution. breathe. We still have to keep breathing. We still have to keep working. But what we do today will determine the kind of democracy we will have, the kind of future we will have.
Thank you, Maria. If there are no more questions, we're gonna wrap up. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. We're about to end the broadcast now on Rappler and on other platforms. So thank you again for joining us today. If you have any other questions, you can field it to us via my number. Most of you have it already. And thank you again for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Maraming salamat, guys. Thanks for your time.